So in this presentation, I'll be taking some brief lecture on global warming and climate change. And through this, I mean just an introduction to the topic so that you'll get a crux of the topic global warming and climate change. Already you have climate change related topics, and this will be a useful one. Okay, so first of all, let me thank and acknowledge NASA Earth Observatory, IPCC reports, NOAA, ISRO, IITM, ESA, UK Met Office, Scripps Institute of Oceanography, Mauna Loa Observatory, National Hurricane Center for and for their courtesy for their figures and graphics which I have taken and kept in this presentation. First of all, let us see what is the weather, what is climate. These are the two words which we use mixingly in our day-to-day life, weather and climate. So even if two unknown people, they meet each other, if they want to talk something or start a conversation, usually people will say, oh, it is too hot today, or if it's raining, it is not raining at all. Like that, this type of small conversation related to weather, these are used by people to start some conversation between for a couple of minutes. So these are very frequently used terms. So weather, what is the difference between the terms weather and climate? Let's see. If you check in Google weather of some particular place, for example, here I have shown weather of Trivandrum, Thiruvananthapuram. If you search weather, we'll get some screen like this. If you search for climate of Thiruvananthapuram, it is slightly different. So that means these two things are slightly different. In the one or two slides, I'll make you understand what is the difference between these two terms. In this example, you take Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala. This actually is not taken in today. It's not taken for today. Today actually it is raining here. I think a few days back I have taken this one. So if you take, you'll get something information like this: 32 degrees Celsius, then precipitation 10% chance, humidity 61%, wind. Then there is a graph which shows temperature. If you click prediction, wind, it will show the wind strength and direction. And for a couple of days, it will show graphically how the weather will look like. But if you check for climate, you will see some graphs like this. It will show maximum temperature for many months together, minimum temperature, then number of days of rainfall for each and every month, then number of hours of daylight. All these things comes under climate. So basically the difference between these two things is that this is instantaneous or value for a day or next day or the next day or a couple of days. So that is weather. Short-term changes in the temperature, clouds, precipitation, humidity, wind direction, etc. for a particular place or a region. Okay, but climate, if you say, it is averaged over several years. The values are averaged over several years and seasons together. Now you see this one. Weather is a short-term changes which see in temperature, clouds, precipitation, humidity, and wind direction, and it can vary greatly one day to the another day, or within a day itself it can have drastic variation. Morning it will be cool. As the sun comes, temperature will start increasing, and by noon time or slowly after the noon time, it will be having maximum temperature. Then the temperature decreases, and by night time temperature falls. So there is a drastic difference in up and down in temperature within a day. So the weather itself changes. Similarly, the wind strength will be more on a particular time, then it may be decreased, then it may increase like that. So it will have drastic change. But if you take climate, we will say it as oh, this month it is actually rainy season, or actually this should be rainy, like that we will be telling. So that means that is based on past several years experience, they say. So that is the difference between weather and climate. Next slide. Next question is the Earth climate changing? This is the topic of the day. And yes, we all know that Earth's climate is changing and is always changing. In the past, our Earth has undergone warmer periods as well as cooler periods. And each and every period, warmer period and cooler period, they lasted for thousands of years. And we, our people have data since 1800 and to last 1 or 2 centuries only. Before that, what to reconstruct the data, there are several techniques. Paleoclimatology itself is a big field where people do research to understand the past climate of the Earth. It's not the weather, it's climate of the Earth. And from those reconstructed data, we understand that the Earth has undergone drastic changes for thousands of years. There were warmer periods as well as there are cooler periods. There warmer period during the medieval time. So in the x-axis you see the thousands of years, and y-axis you see the temperature anomaly with respect to the present. So it has 0, take it as a mean for all these years together. See, it has gone, it has been negative for several years, then it become warmer, then it again decrease and again increase. You can see sudden shooting in the last century or this century, sudden shooting is there. So we'll be focusing on this century. Okay, then the next question will be, what is causing the Earth's climate to change? As soon as this, if we pose this question to some students, they will be telling that, okay, climate is changing because of greenhouse warming. So that's the first answer people may tell. In addition to that, there are several answers, and I will mention one by one. Some causes are natural causes, some causes are man-made causes, or man's intervention in the Earth atmospheric system. So natural causes, we'll see that changes in the Earth's orbit. Changes in the Earth's orbit, that will not happen in 1 or 2 days or in thousands of years. It will happen in several thousands or millions of years, or this is a very slow process. Earth's orbit itself has undergone changes. And you know, the Earth axis is tilted at a 23.5 degree. And this axis tilt itself has undergone various wobbling and changes. So that itself is called Milankovitch cycle. So over thousands and millions of years period, this axis tilt that will cause some areas to become more warmer, some areas to become more cooler. So that is one of the cause. Next is the amount of energy coming from the sun. The sun, as you know, it is in the medieval period. It is or the mid period. It is not in the youth time now. So the sun's intensity is increasing and decreasing since its age is nuclear fission, fusion, all these forces are going on in the sun and releasing a lot of energy, and some part of the energy is reaching the Earth's surface as incoming solar radiation. Incoming solar radiation, we call by the name incoming solar radiation insolation. Okay, so depending on the amount of energy coming from the sun, and depending on solar cycle, one word is the term is called solar cycle. Solar cycle, that's an 11-year period where the sun intensity will be increasing for some period of time, then decreasing. It itself will have a oscillation of about 11 years, 10, 11 years. Then next is ocean changes which are happening to our oceans. That will come in detail later. Then volcanic eruptions. Volcanic eruption, they cause abrupt change in the climate. For example, if you say one volcano was there named Pinatubo, there a volcanic eruption in particular year, it released lot of gases and dust particles in the atmosphere and even the lower stratosphere. So trapping of this one cut off or lessen the amount of radiation reaching the Earth, and it caused the cooling in some regions. Even there are studies which highlighted the decrease in sea surface temperature related to the Pinatubo explosion. I mean volcanic eruption. So in addition to these natural causes, the man-made causes are also causing our Earth's climate to change. So most scientists, they say that it is very likely that most of the warming since mid 1900s due to burning of coal, oil and gas. That means as the industrialization era started, man's intervention became more intense, and the resulting feedback resulted in the Earth's climate to slowly change. So when man's intervention started and burning of coal, oil and gas and industrialization increased, gases here, the trapped gases, the heating, carbon dioxide, etc. into the air, that also increased. And many of them, they result in more warming in the Earth's atmosphere. So it's also is a man-made cause which changed the Earth climate slowly. And now that change has become faster. Now, there's one equation with this I will try to explain how the radiative equilibrium of the Earth is happening. If you can see my pointer, I am pointing it to the sun. Sun, since its energy is falling to Earth's surface, and Earth is getting some energy from the sun, which I mentioned, that insolation, incoming solar radiation, and the absorbed energy. Some part of the energy is absorbed by the Earth, some part is reflected by the Earth, and Earth absorbs some energy. Every body which absorbs some energy is able to emit also. Okay, absorption by the Earth is mainly in the typical temperature. You take 300 Kelvin or something like that. The Earth will emit at sigma T power 4. That is Stefan-Boltzmann law, sigma T power 4, fourth power of temperature. Stefan-Boltzmann constant sigma and fourth power of temperature. Any body which emits will be having energy emitted at the rate of fourth power of temperature. The sun, say a typical temperature 6000 Kelvin. So sigma 6000 power 4. But an Earth energy which is emitted, it's at the rate of sigma 300 power 4. So that much vast difference is there between the energy emitted by the sun as well as the Earth. So the emitted energy, if you want to find the wavelength of the energy which is emitted by the sun and the Earth, you'll find that even though sun emits energy at all the wavelengths, starting from the microwaves reaching up to the cosmic rays or the the X-rays, it peaks in the visible region. That means more visible radiation compared to the Earth's emission. While Earth, which is at a lower temperature, 300 Kelvin, mean temperature 300, take it as 300 Kelvin. Typically take it as 300, sigma 300 power 4. And by Wien's displacement law, we'll understand that Earth's temperature that corresponds to in the infrared region around 10 micrometer. So most of the energy emitted by the Earth peaks in the infrared region. So Earth emission is mostly IR, infrared emission. Okay, now coming to this point, sun is emitting some energy and Earth is receiving the part of the energy. Earth is again re-emitting the energy, reflecting back like that. Okay, reflecting back in the visible is called albedo or reflectivity. Okay, the amount of energy reaching the Earth atmosphere, top of the atmosphere, say, that is named by a term called solar constant, S0. Okay, amount of energy reaching the Earth, that is, take Earth, take it as a circle. So S into pi r square. Okay, amount of energy reflected back from the Earth is minus of solar constant into pi r square into albedo. So if you take the difference, you will find the net value. So that is written like S pi r square is common to 1 minus albedo. Now this should balance with the outgoing long wave radiation or the thermal infrared radiation emitted by the Earth. That is sigma Earth temperature power 4 into 4 pi r square. 4 pi r square I have taken because 4 pi r square is the surface area of a sphere. Even though the Earth receives energy in the disk, that means that circle portion, but the reflected, the radiated back energy that is emitted from all places from the Earth surface. So emitted back 4 pi r square. Okay. So now if we solve for the temperature of the TE, we will get a value TE equal to 255 Kelvin. 255 Kelvin corresponds to minus 18 degrees Celsius. But we know that our Earth temperature is not minus 18 degrees Celsius. If we take the mean, it is not minus 18. If we take the global mean temperature, Earth temperature is around plus 15 degrees Celsius. Because there are places where the temperatures are sub-zero. There are places, majority of the places are above 0 degrees Celsius. For example, near to the equator or near to the tropics, the temperature are maximum. While if you go near to the poles, the temperature are minimum or sub-zero. So if you take as a mean, we'll find our temperature is around 15 degrees Celsius. Take it as typically 15. There's a drastic difference. If we in this equation, if we solve, we'll get it as minus 18. So this is very much lower than the reality. So why Earth is around this much degree or 33 degrees? Because you may guess it is because most of the energy which is reaching the Earth's surface is getting reflected back, absorbed, used for our Earth atmospheric system as a whole. Then some part of the energy it is being taken by the clouds from lower levels, and when the moisture by the lower levels, when it ascends and clouds form, it releases latent heat energy. Like that, several processes are happening in the atmosphere. Some aerosols will be reflecting back the solar energy. Some will be absorbing it, and it again emits its own at its own temperature. Like that, several things happen. Clouds, they are also important things. The clouds, some clouds they reflect more. Some clouds they trap the infrared radiation emitted by the Earth. So it's a very complex process. And the difference in the value of -18 and +15 is because net energy is being used by the Earth atmospheric system. So the trapping process, trapping is because of the gases surrounding the Earth as well as the clouds. So if the gases surrounding the Earth are not there, for example, carbon dioxide or such type of gases are not surrounding the Earth, then the Earth would have been -18 degrees Celsius. Totally inhuman. And humans cannot be able to inhabit in this Earth. So we are comfortable and living here because the positive side of carbon dioxide and other such gases, which traps the infrared radiation emitted by the Earth. Because I told you earlier that Earth emission peaks at IR. So they absorb more in IR region, and that trapping something we call it as greenhouse effect. So that causes rise in Earth's temperature. So 33 degrees Celsius warmer of the Earth compared to the equation is because of the positive effect of carbon dioxide also plays a role, which is slightly mentioned that some clouds they warm more, some clouds they cool more. Okay. Now we will find the difference between climate change and global warming. Global warming, global, the word itself you can understand global, the Earth as a whole and as a long-term average. It refers to the long-term increase in the average temperature of the Earth. While climate change, that change word is important. Climate change refers to any long-term change in Earth's climate or climate of a region or a city. That climate change can be in several aspects. It can be warming, cooling, and some other changes also besides temperature. Okay. The IPCC special report was there, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. They mentioned in their report that above the pre-industrial levels, the temperature has warmed above 1.5 degrees Celsius. So there has been warming, and we attributed to the greenhouse gas emission. Greenhouse gases, several greenhouse gases are there. One of the major greenhouse gases is carbon dioxide. This word, global warming, that was coined by Dr. Wallace Brocker. He was in the news few months back. You may refer back and see why he was in the news. Wallace Brocker. Now, Earth is getting a lot of energy, and how the Earth will respond. If excess energy is being trapped within the Earth, several radiative forcing is acting on the Earth atmospheric system, and Earth effect will be 40% is due to the direct effect of greenhouse gases and aerosols. 60% of the effect is from increasing concentration of water vapor, and temperature will rise. So water vapor is also a good greenhouse gas. Water vapor they also trap in the long wave radiation, and it also causes increase in temperature. Now, this reveal how our Earth has been becoming warmer and warmer over the years. They have taken long-term mean, and from that they have subtracted the yearly mean from that. So they will get the anomaly. So surface temperature in 1884, the blue shades represents the negative anomaly, while the warmer shades they represent warming in the temperature. From 1884 to 2018, you can see there has been warming over several places, and that rarely in one or two patches only cooling has happened compared to long-term mean. And warming is in a drastic rate or higher rate in the polar region compared to the tropical region. So impact will be more in the polar region. Polar region is presently mainly ice covered, and the impact, if it happens more in the polar region, means ice melt will be more drastic seasonal melt. Now there's an interesting fact of 2019, and that is the 2019 was the second warmest year on record. According to the study by NASA and NOAA, 2019 was the warmest year, global mean warmest temperature compared to last several years. and their record keeping, they began in 1880. From 1880, 2019 was the warmest. Now you may ask, 2019 was the second warmest. So why, which year was the first warmest or the most warmest? That is 2016. Okay. And interesting fact is that over the last 6 years, again warming is happening. That's not a good sign. Please see the last point. In 2019, global temperatures were 0.98 degrees. That means about 1 degree Celsius warmer than 1951 to 1918. An alarming rate. Now, in the next few slides, I will show you one figure of our continents and oceans, and they will represent one by one. If global temperature rises by 4 degrees Celsius, which all areas will be more affected? Okay, first one, forest fires. If global temperature increases by 4 degrees Celsius, the circled areas, you can see this area, South African region, Central African region, the Middle East region, Europe and Eurasian region, American, North American, Central North American region, and equatorial and tropical South American region, as well as East African region. They are going to be impacted more if in case of forest fire. That means forest fires will be more frequent if in these regions if 4 degrees Celsius in temperature. Now, next one, which all regions will be more affected by the crop or plantation if global temperature increases by 4 degrees Celsius? India will be severely affected. Similarly, China, East China, South Africa, Middle Brazil, as well as USA region. Next one is water availability. North, especially North India and Afghanistan, those regions, Europe region, South Africa, and Central or Equatorial South American region, they are going to be impacted more in case of in terms of water availability. Next one is sea level rise. If globally 4 degrees Celsius rises, which all areas will be more impacted by sea level rise? You can see India, the South China Sea, this area, this archipelago, Philippines archipelago region, Australian region, Chinese Greenland, that is ice sheet covered region. So their sea level is going to be more than the West European region. Next one is which all regions will be more affected in terms of marine ecosystem. Marine ecosystem will be more affected in more or less all the oceans. Then next one is drought. Drought will be more frequent in these circled regions, this Middle East region and Europe, South Africa, as well as the Philippines archipelago region. Now, in terms of permafrost, permafrost is permanent frosted region where always the temperatures are sub-zero. These regions in Alaska, Alaskan region, North America, Greenland, and Eurasian region, they will be impacted more. That means the ice melt will be more in the northern hemisphere compared to the Antarctica. Now, next one is tropical cyclones. They will be more frequent in India, which is not at all good sign. And nowadays we are facing more Indian Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, and that too the frequency of cyclones also increasing and the intensity is also increasing. Then South China Sea area as well as the American coast. Next one is extreme temperature. Temperature will be increasing to higher degrees Celsius or uncomfortable levels in these marked regions, especially the industrial regions of China, Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and industrial regions of USA. This doesn't mean that other regions are not affected, but the circled regions are showing where the impact is more going to be affected. Now, all the things combined together, if you put just like a Venn diagram, you can see many things are overlapping. That indicates those regions are more vulnerable in terms of all these parameters. Now, going to the next slide. Anomalies from 1880 to 2019. And this is with respect to a long-term mean. This graph, it shows the deviation from the mean or global temperature anomaly, global mean minus the long term. So for each and every year, it is understood that since 1880, temperature was lesser, warming happened, and a drastic increase is there since the middle of 19th century. Okay, 19th and 20th century. Now, this curve, blue shades, they represent the temperature below the long-term average. Red shades indicates temperature above the long-term average. And this black line, you can see, that is the carbon dioxide concentration embossed on this figure. With respect to the years, you can see the temperature has been increasing. There were small epochs where the temperature was lesser, but the temperature decreased globally. It's always increasing, and that increasing will be slightly higher or lower, but still it is increasing. And carbon dioxide is consistently increasing. So these things are related. Global annual temperature, they increased more than 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, which corresponds to about 1 degree Celsius, 0.8 degree Celsius, since the 1880 means. Okay. Then there are year-to-year fluctuations. Some year-to-year fluctuations may be related to natural process like El Nino, La Nina, some volcanic eruptions. If some volcanic eruption happen, maybe the next 1 or 2 years, the temperature may decrease in the tropics. Like that, things may happen. Now, from the first 1 or 2 slides, I was telling that there are human causes as natural causes which influence the climate. So, the slides gives a differentiation between these two. The black line, it represents the observations, global temperature change observations. The blue shades represent natural and human factors. Then the green, natural factors only. If natural factors only are there, means the temperature would not have increased above 0 degrees Celsius. There will be increase and decrease. You can say increase and decrease. But it will be all about 0 or no change. But this natural and human factors kept it together. There has been steady increase. And observations also substantiate that point. Next one, this curve represents the carbon dioxide concentration over the years. How the carbon dioxide value increased over the years. This is observation. This is not a modeling result, and this is the worldwide reference observatory kept at Mauna Loa Observatory, that is in Hawaii Island, in a remote island. It is far away from industrial site. So it's a you can say that it is a reference site for the world. You can see over the years, around 1955 or something, the observatory was set up there. Carbon dioxide value has been increasing, and rate has been slightly more in the beginning, then decreased here, then again increased drastically, and it has been increasing consistently. And today, when I checked, the value was 413.61 ppm there. 2020 August, it was 412. 2019 August, it was 409. So the value has been increasing. You can see yearly there's an up and down. If you watch carefully, you can see zigzag motion within a year. That is natural change. That is with respect to the season. So depending on the summer hemisphere, northern summer and southern summer, that means if we have summer in the northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere will be having winter. Sun is more in one hemisphere, there the releasing the plant will not be there, so more carbon dioxide will be absorbed by the plants, so lesser carbon dioxide will be pertaining in the atmosphere, and that's it. So that is why the zigzag motion is there within a year. If we zoom into a particular year, we can see that increase in trend, but zigzag motion is there within a year. So seasonal change is there, that is natural. But within the natural, we can see there is steep increase or drastic increase in carbon dioxide value, reference value. So this can be one of the main reasons why the Earth is warming. Carbon dioxide warming, Earth, the contribution by people are also there. So that is mainly attributed to the fossil fuel emission. Fossil fuel emission graph, if we take here, you can see the second graph here, the bottom panel 1. It has been increasing in different rates. In the industrial era, it increased. Then post-industrial era also it increased drastically. Worldwide, there are consensus, and people started reducing the exhaust of carbon dioxide. So the fossil fuel emission decreased, but it decreased compared to some earlier values. But if you take the mean, it is increasing even year to year. So that also contributes to the net value of the, or the average value of the Earth atmospheric system carbon dioxide. We can say that the carbon dioxide give off makes up more than 75% of annual climate pollution. So major constituent of pollution is carbon dioxide. A few slides back, I referred to something called carbon dioxide is helping our Earth to maintain its temperature in the positive. Otherwise, Earth would have been cooler by minus 15 degrees Celsius. So carbon dioxide is a boon as well as a bane. The positive side is that it is a greenhouse gas and it helps in maintaining the Earth's temperature to a comfortable level. But that comfort is decreases and it traps more long-wave radiation and warms the Earth atmospheric system. Now, if it is visible to you, you can see the carbon dioxide timeline over several years observed by satellite sensor ARIS. 2005. You can see the red shades will be increasing trend and violet shades will be decreasing trend. You can see slowly the trend is increasing. 2008, 2009, 2010 increasing red shades, 2010 end, 2011, 2012, 2013 it is increasing drastically, 2013, 2014, 2015 increased drastically, 2016 almost red, one of the warmest years, like that. Okay, so the observations also substantiate this. Now, this figure you might have watched recently in the media. A Nobel Prize for Physics was given to 3 people, among them Dr. S. Manabe. He is a very much important contributor to the information on climate change because of carbon dioxide pollution. Long back itself, he had made several studies, and from that study, there's a graph which will represent the x-axis. It shows the temperature, y-axis it shows the altitude of the Earth atmosphere. You see the temperature decreases with altitude, and is the lowermost layer called the troposphere, where the temperature decreases with altitude, and at a particular level it becomes steady and it starts increasing. So this is called tropopause, and this after the tropopause it is called the stratosphere, where the temperature increases with altitude. That is a normal trend. Now in his study, the interesting fact is, if the carbon dioxide ppm value they increase by 150 ppm, how the temperature blue line. If the value increased by doubling 300 ppm, then black curve. Again, if it doubles by 600, how the temperature profile will look like. This is a zoomed in of this region. It shows blue is lesser, black is more, red is further more. That means temperature increases in the troposphere. You can see it steadily increases in the troposphere, increases in all altitudes of the atmosphere up to troposphere, and it cools drastically in the stratosphere. So that cooling will be more in the stratospheric region and warming will be more in the tropospheric region. We live in the tropospheric region, all the activities happen in the tropospheric region. There will be that global warming impact will be more if it increases by 600 ppm. So this study was done earlier by Manabe, and it has got the Nobel Prize for physics this year. Now, carbon dioxide, water vapor, and ozone. Studies shown that doubling of carbon dioxide, if you double the carbon dioxide, it can produce a net radiative increase of 4.6 watt per meter square. In the long wave radiation, the net radiative increase will be 4.6 watt per meter square. Under no climate feedback mechanism, if there is no other climate feedback mechanism, then this 4.6 watt per meter square, they will cause mean temperature of the Earth to increase by 1.4 degrees Celsius or 1.4 Kelvin. Now, if there are feedback mechanisms like feedback because of clouds or feedback because of some other oceanic feedback or Earth atmosphere, other gas feedback, then in reality this value will be several times higher. Now, IPCC report, they briefly gives information on several constituents which cause global warming, and these are main factors in the atmospheric system, and that in turn will cause global warming. Now, first one you see carbon dioxide. The positive value that indicates the positive 0 is here, reference line is here. Positive value that indicates positive radiative forcing, and negative value indicates negative radiative forcing. Just you keep in your mind that the positive value they definitely will cause warming. Okay, so carbon dioxide, it causes a major constituent, methane is a constituent, nitrous oxide, then halocarbons, and now next one is stratospheric ozone. Stratospheric ozone that causes cooling. Then tropospheric ozone means ozone which is trapped within the troposphere or lower atmosphere, and they cause warming in the Earth atmospheric system. And moreover, this is a pollutant. That's why we call it as a pollutant, and it causes harmful health effects also. That means if we emit more ozone in the lower atmosphere or where we live in troposphere, it causes abundant in the stratosphere. And stratospheric ozone, if it increases, it is good. But in reality, you see, you have heard of the term ozone hole and all. The ozone value undergoes fluctuations year by year, and if it increases, it is good. If it decreases, the cooling will be reduced. Now, next one is sulfate. Sulfate is also a cooling gas. Next one is black carbon. Black carbon means in Malayalam we say kari. Black carbon, if it is emitted more in the atmosphere, it causes absorption of the solar radiation. Absorption means it will again emit a radiation. In the long wave. So what happens is that again warming will happen. And fossil fuel, some part it will cause cooling, because some part of the if it is a cloudy, I mean if it is a smoky condition in a particular region, if sun is in the background, we will feel cooler. That means amount of radiation reaching our head, it will be lesser. So it causes cooling. So the net effect will be the balance between the cooling and warming caused by the black carbon. So there is a debate like whether it will cause a really cooling or warming. It depends upon the concentration as well as altitude with which it happens. Now, next one is the mineral dust. It also has got a large uncertainty in the studies. Some minerals will cause warming, some of them will cause cooling. Then tropospheric aerosols. Tropospheric aerosols are suspended particles in the atmosphere, and they cause lot of effects in the radiative forcing, and their real effective effects are yet to be clearly understood. Next one is contrails and cirrus clouds. Contrails are condensation trails which you see in the exhaust region of the aircraft which travel at high altitude, and they are also type of clouds. And what happens is that the contrails or the condensation trails, they are because of the cloud formation at that altitude, because of the humidity is high. They will act as cloud condensation nuclei in that it forms a trail or cloud trail or condensation trail. The negative thing is that they are totally made up of ice. What happens is if they spread and if they are not dissipating away, they will trap large amount of long wave radiation emitted by the Earth. If that cloud or cirrus cloud or contrail cloud was not there, then emitted radiation from the Earth's surface would have gone out to the space, and Earth would have become cooler. A typical example I will tell you in the next coming slides. Next is the land use albedo. That means Earth albedo has been reducing. So that will also have impact on the net radiative forcing. Next one is solar effects. Solar effect is very large uncertainty is there in that study, and depending on the solar cycle and the solar flares, the Earth radiative forcing in a positive way. Now, this slide I will try to explain the things which I started mentioning in the earlier one. The lot of energy is coming from the sun, incident on the Earth, and on the way it encounters clouds at different altitudes. This is a cloud at high altitude. We call it a cirrus cloud. Cirrus cloud has nearly semi-transparent clouds and transparent clouds. So, lot of incoming solar radiation, the visible radiation, they will be going through the clouds and reaching the Earth. And some part of the radiation, about 30%, will be reflected back. That's called albedo, reflected back radiation. And again, it will be reflected back like that. If you take lower level clouds, incident radiation, lower clouds are having more albedo, so it will reflect more. While the upper level clouds or high altitude clouds, they reflect less, they are more transparent. Most of the radiation reaches there. So if it is thicker clouds or low level clouds, radiation will reach the Earth surface. Now, Earth is getting warmer. Earth will emit Earth sigma T power 4, and Earth radiation is in the long wave, and long wave radiation is represented by the red curve. Emitted radiation is going out, and some radiation is going out to the space. If it is cirrus cloud, the trapping is more. Again, it will absorb. It is ice crystal, so it will be trapping long wave radiation in the IR. It will again re-emit, and some part of the radiation will be again re-emitted back to the Earth's surface. So it will be trapping between the cloud and the Earth, just like carbon dioxide. This cloud, especially the high altitude clouds or ice clouds, they increase the net temperature of the Earth's atmospheric system. While if it is thick cloud, what happens is that I told about the reflection part. Now it is a emission part from the Earth's surface. Some part will be reflected back again. Some part will be emitted by the cloud, and outgoing long wave radiation it will be lesser. So the net effect of the cloud will be whether it is a higher altitude, if it is ice cloud or water cloud, the radiative forcing differs. If the radiative forcing differs, what happens is that the temperature trapped or the amount of energy trapped or the amount of radiation trapped within the atmosphere and Earth system becomes lesser or more, and it affects the temperature profile in the atmosphere, thereby contributing to the words warming or cooling. If you take a typical example, I can say that on a cloudy day, if you go outside, if the sun is in the background, you will feel cool, just like an umbrella. So that means you are having negative radiative forcing or cooling. But in the night time, if there are no clouds, you will feel happy. That means most of the long wave radiation is being going out. But in night time, if there are a lot of clouds, you will feel sultry and warm. That means the amount of radiation reflected back as well as emitted back by the clouds towards the Earth, that is more, or trapped within the cloud and Earth system. So that will cause warming. So that is a positive and negative effects of the Earth and cloud on the Earth atmospheric system. And clouds, they are having the highest priority in the global atmospheric model, and lot of uncertainty is there. So that is why lot of studies are going on to understand the effect of clouds on radiative forcing. Now, next slide, it explains the regional warming in the last decade relating to the pre-industrial era. So annually, you can see annual average warming is in the positive side or positive shades. There are extreme areas where extreme violet colors are there. That means especially in the polar regions where temperature increased drastically. Majority of the places the temperature has been increasing. If we take a seasonal, December, January, February, or our winter season compared to June, July, August, that means our summer season. So warming is more. The winter time, the warming compared to pre-industrial time is more. Or temperature is more in the winter season, especially in the northern and polar region. You can see this all substantiate with the modeling and other study which I have gone through in the previous slides. June, July, August also, several places, especially northern hemisphere, the warming is more. Now, coming to the sea level rise, which is an interesting topic, which I kept there in the earlier slides to explain now. You can see this cartoon or this slide, which is a representative made in Maldives. By 2030, the sea level would reach this area. By 2050, it will reach here. This is just a representative. Now you see this island town. I think this town is in some part of Maldives. Some areas are already drenched into the ocean in Maldives. Okay, you can see this much thick population. It is surrounded by ocean. If a 1 meter rise happens in the sea level, then several more islands will be going under the ocean. So that much threat is there. Okay. Now this curve, we can see, this curve indicates the sea height variation in millimeters over time, 90s to 2020. So it has been steadily increasing. There are years when the sea level slightly decreased, but if you see the trend, it has been increasing in the year. Sea level increased by several millimeters. If you take from the long term 1880 reference level, sea level has been rising by 21 to 24 centimeters. If you take globally, 2019 global sea level was 96 millimeter above 1993 average. That is the highest annual average as per the satellite record. Satellite records of sea level rise are from 1993 onwards. So that's a very alarming thing. The rate of sea level rise, that is important parameter. 4 millimeter per year throughout most of the 20th century to almost double, 3.6 millimeter per year, 2015-2015. So this is a reality as per the observations. So worldwide, if greenhouse gas emission is reduced or made to a minimum value, still the chances are there like global sea level rise will increase over the years. And because the reason is the water or the earth, ocean, they store most of the energy or excess energy compared to the earth atmospheric system. So that excess energy is stored by the ocean, that actually triggers more violent weathers and causes lot of destruction to the lot of destruction to the earth atmospheric system, and it the high bad events, extreme events. So even if we follow a low greenhouse pathway, global sea level rise, they are about to increase about 30 centimeters above 2000 level by 2100. Now this is satellite observations from 1993 to 2018. Blue shades represent the anomaly, negative positive anomaly, and red shades represent decrease in sea level. So blue, almost all the areas are blue. There are only very less areas where the sea level has gone down compared to the 1993 value. So sea level has been rising and are rising as per observation as well as with the modeling. Now, this is a graph showing the sea surface temperature or our region, India, surrounding Indian Ocean region for different months as per satellite observation for long-term mean for different months. Seasonally, you can see lot of changes happening. In the summertime, sea surface temperature is increasing drastically in this region, especially in the Bay of Bengal and some parts of Arabian Sea. By May, the temperature has increased to a maximum. Again, starts decreasing by monsoon time. By winter time, it reduces. Still, northern Indian Ocean is warmer compared to southern Indian Ocean. So this warming rate, that is more important parameter now. And it triggers a lot of cyclones. This is a typical example of two cyclones, rare thing which happened in 2018. At the same time, one cyclone is in the Bay of Bengal and another cyclone is there in the Arabian Sea. Both are very strong. There are some very severe cyclonic of Luban and Tilti. So these type of extreme events can happen as a result of the global warming. There is another cyclone based on the NOAA. If you see the visible images from geostationary satellites, I forgot to tell you about the geostationary satellite. Importance of geostationary satellite is that they can observe a large area of the Earth constantly. That means they are stationary with respect to the fixed point on the Earth. For example, if it is, these satellites are about 36,000 kilometers above the equator or a particular longitude. So they can see a wide area of the Earth and they can monitor continuously. The purpose is that continuous monitoring of the Earth, and they are very useful to understand the weather changes happening in the Earth, oceans, and Earth atmospheric system. Now this infrared image. Infrared image, they indirectly provides the temperature, or we call by the term brightness temperature, which I am not going to go in detail. So the white shade, they either shades indicate thicker clouds. Dark shades indicate, or the gray shades indicate the comparatively higher temperature, or they are ground. That means the ground temperature is higher compared to the cloud temperature. That's the meaning. So whiter shades, lesser temperature and clouds, and blacker shades or darker shades, they indicate the temperature of the Earth. You can see this area of higher temperature, clouds over here, one cyclone is here. So the importance of satellites in the observation of weather and climate, they are very much crucial, especially to understand the changes over a long time. There are satellites like cloud profiling radar is there on a satellite named CloudSat, where they are able to profile the clouds. These images which I have shown you earlier, they are images based on visible and infrared imagery. But this is a satellite called CloudSat, which is having cloud radar. Cloud radar, the advantage is cut across the cloud, we can give a blade cut view. This is latitude versus altitude, the blade cut view of the reality. That means vertically how the cloud looks like, or how intense the cloud is, which area or which portion of the cloud is more intense. type of information it is able to give. Now, this figure is a famous figure. It indicates the tracks and intensity of all tropical storms which have happened till 2020. You can see very high probability of cyclones are there, and in this area, South China Sea and China Sea area, Pacific region, Eastern Pacific, this Atlantic, this basin itself is a high probability region, high risk region. This is a Southern Indian Ocean, but landmass are rare here. Yeah, of Australian region. Interesting fact is our Indian region, Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. They have also got abundant number of cyclones, and now the trend is actually on the positive. Number of cyclones happening in the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal is a matter of concern. Now this is a study, our study, which clearly indicates that sea surface temperature versus altitude for the cloud frequency of occurrence. With the increase in sea surface temperature from 24, 25, 26 up to 31 degrees Celsius, you can see the cloud formation at the lower altitude is there, but no higher altitude cloud form at lower temperature. As soon as 26.5 degrees Celsius increases to more than 26.5, the cloud formation increases and the deep convective cloud starts increasing by 27.5 or 28 degrees, and very deep and thick clouds you can see. Cloud thickness even goes about 15 or more than 15 kilometer thicker clouds, and their frequency is more. I mean thicker clouds and more cirrus clouds happening over here. So deep convective clouds, their frequency increases with increasing temperature. These are all observations. Then the general feature is that with the increase in sea surface temperature, frequency of occurrence of clouds, they increase over here. You can see the last graph over here. Frequency of occurrence, cloud frequency of occurrence, they increases even beyond 30 degrees Celsius. That means if the Earth atmosphere system become warmer and warmer, most of the heat will be trapped in the oceans. And oceans, if they get warmer and warmer, what happens is that the more and more cloud formation will happen, and they will again going to impact the extreme weather events. This is a study by Roxy et al. It shows Western Indian Ocean, this region. This is actually the trend of sea surface temperature for the last 112 years. It shows the trend, a positive trend. That means rate of increase of sea surface temperature of this region is more or alarming compared to other regions. For the warmer shades or the red shades, they indicate warmer trend or increasing trend, and the white and blue shades increasing. Now, this is based on some of our studies, based on multi-satellite observations of cloud radar, lidar, as well as spaceborne images. The sea surface temperature in the background and the cloud blade cut view is shown in the foreground. You can see winter season, you can see the monsoon season, the cloud vertical thickness, the cloud outflow, the with increasing sea surface temperature, how deep or how thick the cloud forms are, how deep the cloud forms. This information you will be able to decipher from this. And now attributing the extreme weather events to climate change, you can see in several places the atmosphere will be affected. Many places the cold or snow will be affected, especially the northern tundra region, I mean the Alaska, this region, Greenland, Eurasian region. Then there will be a problem with the ecosystem itself, coral bleaching region, more frequent in some regions. It's actually the crux of this information I have provided in the earlier slides. This is based on observation. They say that around 260 events this study could decipher out from 2011 to 2018, and they have put in different places which all places are affected more. Now I'll show you a few images, and the visual recall and visual which will be useful to understand how changes happened over the years. First, let us see Arctic sea ice. Arctic area, you see the Greenland area. Sea ice is more in this region. 1984, 2016, it reduced considerably. This is a photo taken in the Himalayas in 1956. This is photo taken 2007. You can see most of this glacier has gone or melted, and now a pool is there. That much change has happened even in our Himalayas. This is the passing of a cyclone and before the passing of a cyclone. First image shows the before the passing of a cyclone, night light imagery. After the passing of a cyclone, several areas have gone flooded, and night light has reduced. Kerala floods in 2018. This is a resultant. You can see the resultant or the next accumulated rainfall on Kerala region. At the same time, there were regions where precipitation or rainfall were higher. But now I'm concentrating Kerala region only. Kerala, this is a satellite imagery taken by some visible imagery in a satellite in 2018, 6th February before the event, and 22 August 2018 after the event. This is the Kutanad region. Kutanad region you can see over here. After the flood, the entire region has gone under flood. Now heat wave turning northern Europe into brown. That color you can see over here. 2017, 2018, greenish become brown. That means heat wave that caused a lesser leaf area, and effectively the areas have become brown or warmer. Now the final slide to conclude. Now almost it's time. Now the final slide I will just mention how much more the earth will warm. That is our take home question which you can think upon, ponder upon. Based on the models, there are different scenarios. First scenario is that over the years, if we keep carbon dioxide constant, what will happen? If we say low growth in carbon dioxide, what will happen? Blue color graph. If moderate growth in carbon dioxide is there, what will happen to the warming of the earth? If high growth in carbon dioxide is there, what will happen in future? Projection is up to 2100. This is a 2000, and beyond 2000 we may have data up to 2020. So you see, if any additional carbon dioxide to the atmosphere after 2000 or 2020, still there will be warming. But warming, you can see this orange curve, it will be at a lesser rate. If you put low growth of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, still warming will be more. This is the trend. At 2100, it will be rising higher. Now, the green curve, it shows moderate growth, and red curve, if high growth in carbon dioxide is there, then the temperature shoots up like this. So to conclude, as the world consumes more fossil fuel and emits beyond greenhouse gas, the greenhouse gas concentration will be more, and Earth's average temperature will rise. And based on the all possible emission scenario, we can say the average surface temperature could rise between 2 to 6 degrees Celsius by the end of 2100. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. Let us hope happen, and our Earth will become warmer, but we can tolerate that warmth. Thank you. We should take necessary steps to reduce the warming, especially made by man. Thank you.